Hello, and welcome to another episode of Love is Your Medicine podcast. My name is Mitch Wright. Hope you had a great weekend. We are at episode 13. We're just moving right along, aren't we? So this week, as most times, I discussed topic choices with my beautiful, lovely, better half, my bride, Michelle. And we both kind of reached this conclusion. What have I talked about? Coping mechanisms. We can all have different coping mechanisms that we use or that we go to when we feel backed into a corner, or when we're depressed, or when we're going through something distressful or just, hectic. We can have more than one coping mechanism. So that's what we're going to talk about in episode 13 of Love is Your Medicine podcast. What is your coping mechanism? Let's get into it. Welcome to episode 13. Like I said in the intro, I hope you had a great weekend. You do anything fun? We mainly just relaxed. Got a lot done around the house. Michelle and I did a lot for our the marketing that we do for one of our businesses. So it was a nice, relaxing, productive weekend, just spending time with the family. So I hope that you had a great weekend, that you were able to do whatever it was that you wanted to do, that you were able to relax, get refocused. And here we are on another Monday. Can't believe it is February 19th already. Seems like this month is flying by. So hope you're staying on track, staying focused, reaching your goals. Don't give up. Keep at it. So yeah, like I said in the intro, thought I'd talk about coping mechanisms this week on episode 13. A coping mechanism is something that we can fall back on, and it can be a bad habit or just choices that we make that kind of take us away from reality. I mean, basically, that's what it is. Excuse me, and I should add, most of them involves taking us away from reality temporarily. Let me throw that in there. And like always, I'm just talking from my own experiences. I mean, that's what part of my podcast is about, is me opening up, being vulnerable, just sharing with you my personal experiences. Because if I could touch someone out there that's going through what I went through and what I'm going through, then, that's what my show is all about. Just trying to reach people that maybe, are experiencing things that I've experienced. Some of the things I talk about, it's just going to be open, honest, and raw. Michelle is very understanding. she feels it's good for me to do this podcast so I can, she said she could tell it's therapeutic for me, that, it does me some good mentally and emotionally to share. So yeah, I've had coping mechanisms. Growing up, I would say, of course, the main one for me would be food. It was a way for me to get away, to escape. And I mean, like, just be honest. If you're eating, especially wrong things, it's just, it's comfort food. That's why they call it comfort food. The feeling that you get, the emotions that you get. So whether it was the, salty or the sweet, that's what I indulged in. And, being older and looking back, I would say, it took me away from reality, the stress of the day. If I had a bad day at school or, being picked on, stress, from homework or an upcoming test or something like that. Yeah, that was my go-to, the food. So, like I said in earlier episodes, I was the chubby kid, the overweight kid. And that had a lot to do with it, my eating choices. Now, I will say this, I was, especially when I was younger and in Chicago and in Houston. So elementary school, junior high school, I ate, and had bad choices with the snacks and the sweets and so forth. But I was like very active. That's back in the days before video games got popular. So me and my friends, we were always riding bikes and, playing softball in the street, or we're playing football in the street, basketball. So we stayed busy, we stayed active, but still, looking back as an adult, I turned to food as a coping mechanism. And the older I got, and, the older I would get, and health comes into question in my life as any adult. You go into the doctor and they're doing lab work. That comes up, the food part of it. So that was one coping mechanism that I had. Now, as an adult, I would say alcohol became a coping mechanism. And I wouldn't say that I was, like when you hear the word alcoholic, you think of someone that just abuses liquor. They need it to just do life, to cope. I wouldn't say I was like that, but I would definitely use it to kind of escape reality. Whether it was things I was going through at work or things I was going through in my first marriage, or just self-inflicted pain that I was trying to escape from. I would definitely say that was a second coping mechanism, was the alcohol. Like I said, I didn't abuse it like bad, but yeah, I would drink wine. There was one period in my life when I would do like a bottle of wine every evening. And that was a point in my life, and especially like talking with my family, they even noticed, how much wine I was consuming. But that was a part of my life, which I'll touch on a little later. That was a part of my life that I was really, really trying to figure out and pinpoint what my issue was. So like not making excuses, but that's what I was going through with that part. And so now, things have changed, and I'll get into it because health had a lot to do with it. But with my drinking habits, a lot has changed with what I drink and how much I drink, how often I drink. So now when I drink, it's more casual. I'm not trying to escape anything. So I may have a beer here and there. Sometimes I'm in the mood for whiskey, so I'll buy a small bottle of, whiskey that I like, or bourbon. So it just depends on my mood, but I definitely don't have to consume it every evening like I did in that one patch of my life when I was trying to escape something else. So those are pretty kind of like common, I would say. Food and alcohol coping mechanisms. So does that resonate with you? Either one of those? We have to think about what we're doing daily. And as I found out, you really, really have to be cognizant of it because, man, your family is watching. And, I felt bad, honestly. There's no way to, best describe it when, I'm talking to our daughter, and she remembers that time period of, when I was drinking so much wine. And I've told her it was just a bad period in my life. And, we had the three of us, myself and our daughter and Michelle. We had a serious talk, and, we just talked about it. I explained to her what I was going through, and I admitted that, that was one of the choices I made that was not right. Especially consuming so much alcohol around the kids. And I'm the type, when I drink alcohol, it relaxes me. So I wasn't, an angry drinker. I wasn't mean or anything, but just either very relaxed or very asleep on the sofa. So, like I said, now alcohol is very much under control, and I'm very aware of, when I'm drinking around the family or who I'm drinking around, especially if I know maybe I have a friend or an associate where I know that that's something they're abstaining from or working on is, alcohol consumption. I'll go without. Now it's totally different. My mindset is totally different when it comes to that. And so a huge reason that I had to fix those two coping mechanisms, food and alcohol, is because I think it was about 2009, I would say. And so our daughter is about 1.5, going on 2. And I started going to the doctor because Michelle was very good about getting me to go to the doctor and the dentist and just taking care of myself, which I hadn't done in years. And so, that's a huge part of loving ourselves. Many times we think about the mental and the emotional, but, by all means, take care of yourself physically. That is a huge way that we show that we love ourselves and that we care for ourselves, that we respect ourselves. You stay healthy and even your self-worth goes up. So I had this, I started seeing a doctor, and after he did the lab work and got the results, he wanted me to come in to talk with him. And it was a very straightforward, honest conversation. And that's what I value from anyone, friends, coworkers, relatives, family. Like, just be straight up with me and talk to me honestly. And so I did appreciate that about this doctor. Very honest and open. And he started off by asking me, did I want to see our daughter graduate one day? Keep in mind, she's just like, a year and a half. Do you want to see your daughter graduate one day? And I said, of course. And he said, I'm going to be honest with you. If you continue this lifestyle that you're in, health-wise, I doubt you'll be able to even see her graduate. And that was eye-opening for me. That kind of it was a jolt to my system hearing those words, because nobody want to think that our time is limited, right? So yeah, he went through some numbers with me, and my blood pressure just high. The A1C, checking your blood sugar, just it was 14 point something. That gives you an idea of how unhealthy I was. My weight, I think at that time it was my heaviest point in my life. I was about 350, 355. Easy. So, that was my top weight in my life. And I'm not tall. I'm like 5'8", So very, very unhealthy. And I just didn't take care of myself. And as I would start my physical and mental and emotional journey to wellness, I was starting to figure out how all of this was tied in to each other. Things that I had gone through when I was young and just keeping them bottled up and suppressed, and the ways that I would act out. I did things that made me feel good. But keep in mind, I said, they're temporary. They aren't permanent fixes. So, you eat the food and you get that rush. It's gone, Soon, it's gone. I drink the alcohol or the wine, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling relaxed. I'm feeling carefree. But guess what? You wake up the next morning back to reality. So it was just a vicious cycle. And, I wasn't getting any exercise. I wasn't eating right. So much alcohol, blood pressure just off the charts, blood sugar off the charts, high cholesterol. I forgot about that one. And a lot of these things are, as we call them in the African American in our culture, they're silent killers, and they're overlooked by a lot of African Americans. And so I was on the path of becoming another statistic. Why? Because these were two of my coping mechanisms that I fell back on constantly. And, in a moment, I know why I'm doing it, why I'm eating the way I did, why I drank the way I did, because it's temporary. I call them Band-Aids. You're just kind of patching over the reality of things, or what's really at the root of the pain that you're going through. So, if you're going through that, I get it. I understand. We use these coping mechanisms as band-aids to just kind of gloss over what's really going on deep within us. And so when the doctor told me that, I had a long talk with Michelle, and we just agreed we would both do things to, better our health, better our lifestyles. And we weren't talking about some, doing fad diets or just something very, very drastic. Like I told everyone, because that's the first thing people say when you tell them, changes you're going to make. Oh, you're going on a diet. And I would always tell people, I don't want to call it that, because, in the past, when I heard that word, I shut down. Mentally, I'm out. So, I told Michelle, and I would tell others, I consider this a lifestyle change. I needed a lifestyle change, not just some fad or some, quick 2 or 3 week diet that I would get tired of and stop. I needed a lifestyle reboot. And so, yeah, we, gradually started improving things. I was very mindful of what I would eat and drink. Am I saying that I just became this perfect example of a healthy lifestyle? No. But it was a gradual thing. And like in my other episodes, what do I always say when you have these goals? You take it day by day and you do small things consistently, and they eventually lead to you reaching your mid-level goals and then your long-term goals. Just small, consistent steps daily. So that's what we did. And I'm doing this, but still there's something, that I knew that I felt just wasn't quite right. And I was going through things that I went through in my first marriage and a little bit in my second marriage where, I'm trying to pinpoint what was wrong. So like I said, in episode 3, I did therapy. And that doctor, she was great at helping me get to the root of my problem, what was going on. And so, speaking of coping mechanisms, like I said in the beginning, there are numerous coping mechanisms. Some people is with the food and the overeating. Some is with alcohol abuse. Others is, drug abuse. And talking, hard drugs, the illegal drugs that people abuse, sadly. And it's, such an epidemic, especially in the city we live in. It's, the drug abuse is horrible. You even see them out on the streets getting high in some parts of town that you drive through. So drugs is another coping mechanism for some. Others is sex. That can be a coping mechanism. Whatever coping mechanism that you have, you have to be honest with yourself and get to the root of what is causing you to have that or to fall back on that. Easier said than done, right? A lot of times, a lot of times we don't want to peel back the top on that because we, for some it's embarrassing. For others, it's too much pain related to something that may be causing you to go to that coping mechanism. So for myself, and I touched on it in earlier episodes, episode 3 was one of them, but for myself, what had happened to me at a very young age from a relative, someone I love and trusted, made me react in certain ways. And sadly, one of those coping mechanisms was the way I treated people. And I said it before, I had this attitude that I was going to get you before you got me. If I felt like someone was going to hurt me, then I would usually do something to get at them first. And, that was part of the coping mechanism that I'm referring to. Part of that is I had to be in control. A lot of things were on my terms. And that's something that the therapist, she was baffled by that. Because the way I was acting out, in her words, she said there was no rhyme or reason to the actions that I was taking. She had seen other people struggling with what I was struggling with, but it was usually no stopping with them, she said. That was their pattern, and they sought out whoever they could, however they could. She said, with me, however, it was like I wasn't like that. I would pick and choose those that I wanted to hurt. And that's the word eventually, because when I say if I felt like I was going to get hurt, I get them first. Then, I would control and manipulate the relationship. And if I felt like I was going to get hurt, I would just drop the person. Like, no explanation, no reason. I would just stop talking, block them, do whatever. And like, was it a good way to live? No. And, as I reflect on it now, it was horrible, because I'm establishing these like emotional relationships. Did I mean things that I was saying to them? Not at all. No. And, you get to a certain point and I would just like disappear, do a Houdini act on them and just drop out of their life. And so that's what my therapist was trying to like help me figure out, why I was like that, why I was taking some of the actions I was taking. And pretty much it was, the way she explained it to me. And this is after like a couple of months of weekly therapy sessions. And she told me, quite frankly, she felt like it was me reacting to what had happened to me in the past. I had to be in control of situations in my life, and I had to dictate what happened. And just from talking with me, she could tell that those who I really didn't like or didn't trust were the ones that I really, really sought out to hurt. By whatever means that I used with them. And so, yeah, I'm open on this, but I'll always pick and choose the words I use or the words I say, because I do have a family, do have children. So I want to respect everyone. And, I even want to respect my listeners. So I'll always be open with you, but, I'm going to pick and choose the way I say things. But yeah, my therapist, she really, like I said, it baffled her. But the more we peel back, they say it's like peeling back those layers of an onion, when you're cooking. And that's how it was with my therapy. I had this big wall around me at first because, that was part of my protection too. I had this wall where I was very closed, didn't want to share much. So it took her a lot to, peel back to get to this point with me. But yeah, that was my coping mechanism. Had no business, doing some of the things I was doing or talking to some of the people I was talking to. Had no business doing it, but I would. And again, it wasn't my intention to have anything substantial with them. That's a good word. It was my way of, like, in my head, and this is what she was telling me, getting back at the person that hurt me when I was very young. At first, when she told me all this, I didn't really want to, I didn't believe it. I didn't want to hear that. I don't like to think that someone has a control over me, over my mind. So, I was kind of mad when she told me that at first. But the more I listened and the more I reflected, I understood exactly what she was saying. And I would just go back to different points in my life and really just think about, how I had treated some people, what I had done, what I had said, how I would just drop people. And yeah, sadly, that was a huge coping mechanism. She said it's like it gives you a rush, especially if I'm like talking with someone or flirting with someone. She says, I'm pretty sure it gives you a rush. It takes you away from reality. And then when you're done, you just drop them. And when she said that, when she used those words and when she phrased it like that, that's when I was like, okay, like she knows what she's talking about. And I respected her for that, because it's like she had literally crawled in my head and saw what I was trying to keep quiet. And she told me, what I was doing. So yeah, for me, that was a huge coping mechanism. It was like a rush, to have that power over someone, to where I could control their emotions, what they thought, how they felt, about me. And then, that part of it was a rush. And then to coldly drop them and just disappear, that was the other part of the rush. And like I said, I didn't realize it was quite this bad, or I was this horrible, until I had someone like my therapist explain it to me. Now looking back, I'm like, that was just horrible. It was bad. I don't, especially the way I was raised, and, I was taught better. I shouldn't have lived like that. So I do not use what happened to me when I was young as an excuse. I'm not ever going to use that as an excuse. I knew better. And yeah, thinking back, it doesn't make me proud of who I was. It had a lot to do with my self-respect and my self-worth and my self-love. you know, because it's like this huge vicious cycle, just like it is with alcohol or drugs. You're low, and then you spike yourself by whatever you're doing. Whatever your coping mechanism is, you get this spike. Then you level out, and then you get low. And you repeat. And so, that's what I was doing. I was thinking too many negative thoughts about the past and how I wasn't going to let others control me or influence me ever again. That was my mindset. But then, as I'm going through that cycle and you get to the low, I would reflect. I would have a bad conscience about things I was doing. Of course, I'm sure you might be the same way. Whatever you're doing that you may not be so proud of, or a coping mechanism that you're turning to, when you're in that low period, you have time to think and reflect, because you get back to reality. And so I didn't like myself. I didn't like what I saw. So, how do you think that affects your self-worth and your self-love? It was very low. That's why when I met Michelle, she said she could tell right away that, it was things and qualities about me that she admired. But she also could feel that I had deep pain, that I was at a very low point in my life, that I had very low self-esteem. And when she told me that, I told her, yeah, that, all of what you just said was very true. I was going through that cycle so much of the low, the spike, the level, back to the low, that I was mentally and emotionally, I was just worn down. And so, yeah, when she met me, I was at a very low point in my life. But as I also said, though, it takes honesty for you to admit what's wrong with you, or where you're suffering, where that pain or suffering is coming from. It takes honesty and a lot of self-reflection with yourself. And once I, talked to the therapist after Michelle and I spent hours, many late nights, just talking, just honest conversation. She got to learn so much about me because I was finally opening up. I kept a lot of stuff quiet, but I was finally opening up with her. She understood me more. And she would always tell me, I don't want to know these things to hurt you or use it against you. I want to know these so I can get to know my husband more, so I can know how I can help my husband. And so that too helped me to keep lowering my walls of defense. So, keep that in mind too. If you're trying to help someone who's going through something, who's trying to fix themselves, they're on this self-development, self-improvement journey, be a true confidant, be a true friend for those in need. Assure them why you're helping them, why you want to help, why you want to listen. Because we need that reassurance so that we can feel comfortable. So, when Michelle assured me that she wanted to help me, that she loved me, I opened up more. I let those walls down. And like I said, she got to really, really know me, what I was thinking, why I was acting the way I was with a lot of things. Um, she always told me the actions that I did that weren't the best, my behavior. Um, she knew that it wasn't who I was as a person. Like, she wasn't going to let those low points in my life, those actions, define who I was in her mind. Like, she knew who I was deep down. And so that really, really, it helped me. It helped me to want to do my best on my self-improvement journey. Because, like I said, it took years for me to get to the point I am now at such a good place, mentally and emotionally. It took years of work. And so, that's what I urge you to do, is be honest with yourself, figure out what's causing you to go to whatever coping mechanism you're using. Get to the root cause of it. Once you figure out, what the cause is, you have to think of ways to do better, to work opposite of what you're doing. You have to figure out more healthy ways to get that rush that you need, So for me, I focused a lot on my faith. I got busy doing things for the religion I'm in. A big part of that is like the things I do is serving other people. I took the focus off myself and I began to do everything I could to help others, to focus on others and helping others. And that helped me a lot. Another thing I did was I try to do a lot of self-development. You may notice, if you're on my social media, some of it, I do a lot of mindset and motivation talk. So that's a huge part of what I do to help myself too, is, my Instagram account, I try to be positive, and I try to have this daily motivation topic that I talk about to help others. And it helps me too, to verbalize what I'm thinking in my head and to share it with others. It helps me. So, I focus on that. I put a lot of focus on running our businesses that Michelle and I have, and the business that I have. I put that energy and get that rush from doing good and having a good image of myself and self-worth. Those are the rushes that I need now. That's what lifts me up. Doing things for others, focusing on my family, focusing on my marriage, focusing on business. It's all a balancing. Life is just this big balancing act. And so that's what I use now instead of abusing food, instead of abusing alcohol, instead of abusing others emotionally. I get my rushes and highs from positive things. And so that's what I urge you to do. You have to flip the coping mechanisms into positive things in your life. And so that too takes self-reflection. What are you passionate about? What can you do to take the focus off of yourself for a while and help others, to nurture others. And you'd be surprised how big of a help that is. When you turn to others and do what you can for others unselfishly, even if you're not going to get something in return, or if you're going to get rewarded, for it. Doing things for other people, positive things, it will make you feel great. Trust me. So, this episode, it's for those that may be going through the coping mechanism roller coaster. That's how I refer to it with myself. Do you feel bad? Yes. Are you stuck in a cycle? Are you stuck there forever? Only if you want to be. But like with anything worthwhile in life, it takes effort. And not just that kind of effort that some people have around New Year. Those New Year resolutions, you're all gung-ho for 2 or 3 weeks and then you fizzle out. No. When you're on your self-improvement, self-development journey, remember you're in it for the long haul. So, might you be a little embarrassed? Sure. But don't beat yourself up. Don't stay down on yourself. Negativity is a huge fuel to inactivity. Remember that. Negativity fuels inactivity. So if you want to keep moving forward, keep building yourself up, keep working on yourself, then you have to keep moving forward. You have to keep doing positive things. Positive things in your life, positive things for other people. You can only go so far with coping mechanisms. And let's face it, a lot of them are harmful. Especially like long term. You're harming yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. So, I'm here for you. I feel your pain. Going through it, I've went through it. There's no quick cure for it, but like I said, I am here to tell you that you can get through that lifestyle of coping mechanisms. It's going to take effort, it's going to take work, but that's what we do here at Love is Your Medicine podcast. If you rock with me the first 12 episodes, that's what I'm always saying. We take it day by day. So don't ever feel unworthy. Don't ever feel like you can't do it, that you might as well quit. That's not what we're about here at Love is Your Medicine podcast. It's about positivity. It's about longevity. Longevity. That's the word I'm looking for. We are about longevity here at Love is Your Medicine podcast. Nothing worthwhile is ever easy. I know you've heard that before. You're worthwhile. You are worth it. So if you want to be the best that you can be, it's going to take work. It's going to take effort. But remember that you're worth it. You have to love yourself. You have to believe in yourself. Not an easy journey, but it is a possible journey. And I'm here to tell you. So As I always say in each episode, if you want to reach out to me, if you have questions, send me an email, mitch@themitchwright.com. And I'll also put it in the episode description. But yeah, I'm here for you. You aren't alone at all by any means. Reach out to me on social media. I am on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Love is Your Medicine podcast. You can listen by a lot of different ways, numerous ways to listen to my podcast. If you just go to loveisyourmedicinepodcast.com, you can just choose your listening preference. Subscribe to me so you're alerted for every new episode. But I appreciate you being here and listening to me. I am just still amazed and humbled by the different areas that keep popping up, that people are listening to my podcast. I have listeners in Toronto, various cities across the United States. I just picked up some listeners in Orlando, another city not too far from Orlando, Omaha, New York. So West Coast, East Coast, Midwest. I'm picking up listeners each week. I appreciate you. I have some listeners even in Africa. I have some listeners in the UK. I have listeners in Belgium, listeners in Germany. Like I said, I am baffled. I am humbled, but I am appreciative that, there are people out there that appreciate the message that I am putting out. And that message is to love yourself, respect yourself, deem yourself worthy, to be the best version of yourself that you can be, day in and day out. Take little steps consistently to be your best. So I wish you a good day and I wish you a good week. I appreciate you. Can't wait to my next episode. Stay tuned. It may be another interview. My interview got a lot of downloads and listens. So that's episode 12. Episode 14 may be another interview in the works. So stay tuned for that. Have a great week. Go and do great things.